And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Friday, February 16th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today, but before I get into that, I just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So with that, let's get into what we are going to talk about for today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about a few things, some college football stuff, talk about the new TV deal. The SEC wanted to go to a 9-game schedule. We'll also talk about the court case between the NCAA, Virginia, and Tennessee. And then also with the NFL, the NFL was it seems like they were kind of blindsided by this new sports streaming app that's going to be launched in the fall. So we'll talk about all that in just a second. Then in the second part of the show, we'll talk about Tom Brady saying that even if he was offered a new contract with the Patriots, he was not going to stick around in New England. So we'll talk about that. Then we'll talk about, in the third part of the show, the likelihood that Russell Wilson will be released by the Broncos. I know Sean Payton, he's been talking to the media lately. There hasn't been an official decision yet on, if Russ is going to be cut or released, or if he's going to be traded, or if he's going to stick around. But it seems like the likelihood is he will not be with the Broncos in some capacity next season. So we'll talk about that. And then in the final part of the show, we'll talk about teams that will rise and fall for 2024 in the NFL. Because there was a couple articles on CBS that had teams that were listed, and I wanted to cover that as well. So let's get into the first topic, which is, topics, because there's several here. So first we'll get into the TV stuff with college football. So ESPN and the College Football Playoff, so they were in agreement for a 6-year, $7.8 billion extension to remain the home of the College Football Playoff through the 2031-2032 season. And also in the article that I was looking at, it talks about the conference realignment, about the Pac-12. Basically, now it's the Pac-2 with 2 teams, Washington State and Oregon State. You have UCLA, USC, Oregon, and Washington are moving to the Big Ten, while Colorado, Arizona State, and Utah are joining the Big 12. Cal and Stanford are heading into the ACC. It also talks about how the ESPN deal will not be ratified until the College Football Playoff commissioners and presidents vote on the structure and financials of the expanded College Football Playoff, with meetings scheduled for the following week. Right now, ESPN currently has 2 deals left on its existing deal with the College Football Playoff, worth of an average of $608 million annually, covering college football semifinals, championship, and other New Year's bowl games. Despite the expansion of the College Football Playoff to 12 teams, ESPN retains the rights to all matchups, including the first round, quarterfinals, semifinals, and championship games. The new agreement will cost ESPN $1.3 billion annually, with the quarterfinal college football matchups to be played at current New Year's Six Bowls locations, with which ESPN already holds the rights to. Also, it says how ESPN's new deal extends its control over Division I college championships, with rights to nearly every D1 championships, except for the men's basketball tournament, which is held by CBS and TNT. That's where the College Football Playoff has been held, ESPN, and that's going to continue. And also, what I mentioned is the SEC is considering playing a 9-game schedule. You got major conferences like the Big 10, Big 12, and Pac-12 have already been playing a 9-game schedule, leading to some criticism by the SEC's 8-game format. And, all right, 1 second. Let's fix the... Oh, man. Okay, camera just decides to act up out of nowhere. Don't know why I mean, again, this happens at least once or twice, on the show. Actually, but the thing is, it's been good lately. So I don't know why it. I mean, that just came out of nowhere, but it's that's part of the production here with me. All right, so there we go. Quick fix. Yeah, that was strange, but it happens. The SEC is looking to play 9 games. Again, talks about teams that are moving around, conference realignment. The SEC is expanding by adding powerhouse programs like Texas and Oklahoma. With more teams in the conference, an expanded schedule can ensure more consistent matchups over multiple seasons. And, of course, it also talks about how the college football playoff is looking to expand to 12 teams. And it talks about, more intriguing SEC conference games could lead to better television contracts. Now, we just talked about how ESPN is extending their contract with the college football playoff. So, I mean, I'm curious to see how the whole 12-team format is going to play out. And, with that, and on top of the fact that you're having so many teams shifting around, it's going to be interesting. Again, for me, being kind of an outsider when it comes to college football, I'm intrigued by what is going to happen with all that when we see it, because it's different when you're comparing it to the NFL. Obviously, I mean the NFL, they expanded to obviously the adding the 7th seed. College football, there are very good teams, and then what you don't want is you don't want to have just bad matchups. You want every matchup to be good. And again, I go back to the national championship from a couple of years ago, Georgia against TCU, and just how that was just a complete blowout. Like, you just don't want a lot of those games to be like that, especially when you're expanding to 12 teams. But I mean, we'll see. Again, we'll see. We'll just have to wait and see what it ends up being. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is the stuff with the NCAA and the lawsuit against them from Tennessee and Virginia, because there could be a ruling very soon on that. So a federal judge in Tennessee is considering a preliminary injunction requested by the states of Tennessee and Virginia to stop the NCAA from enforcing its rules regarding name, image, and likeness. So we could be seeing that very soon. So what's talked about here is that now, at first they wanted a temporary restraining order by acknowledging that they are likely to succeed on the merits of their claim under the Sherman's Act. Now, see, the thing with me is, again, I'm an outsider. So it seems like they could be doing away with the NIL rules. Now we'll see. This is what I meant to look at. The NCAA failed to implement detailed NIL regulations in 2021, because that's when this was all put in place. Relying on existing rules against inducements and pay for play, along with state level NIL laws. But yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because now if they do away with these NIL rules, then there's kind of like there's a lot of things that will be opened up if that ends up happening, because this was put into place because, again, you want there to be some kind of regulation on what student athletes can do and what they can't do. But again, if there's no as I was reading, if there's no detailed laws on what you can and can't do, it's it's again, we'll have to see, but something to definitely keep an eye on, because there's a lot of things that can end up happening with that. But again, only time will tell. But a ruling is likely. So we'll have to see how that ends up going. But then we turn to the NFL now, and yeah, so it seems like they were kind of blindsided by this new sports streaming app because they're looking for loopholes. Um, so they were reviewing their contracts with ESPN and Fox because those are two of the big companies that are going to be putting all of their content on, the streaming apps. And the review suggested that the NFL may not be able to prevent its games from appearing on the new streaming platform, but the league is still exploring potential loopholes. Um, NFL executives were reportedly unhappy about being kept in the dark regarding the public announcement of the joint streaming venture, especially given their close partnership with ESPN. Jimmy Pitaro, ESPN's chairman, has prioritized repairing the relationship between ESPN and the NFL since taking over in 2018, resulting in better schedule and improved communication with the league. Yeah, because if you look at the Monday night matchups in the past, yeah, a lot of matchups. It's Sunday Night Football was is like the standard for the primetime games. Thursday night games and the Monday night games for years have kind of been subpar, and that's especially when you look at what they wanted to do this past season, where they wanted to you could flex out of these games. Like they moved the Seattle Eagles game to Monday night, which actually turned out to be a good game because it had playoff implications at the time. But yeah, a lot of times the Monday night and Thursday night matchups just weren't good. So that has I guess that is part of the reason for that. Despite potential concerns, the joint venture makes sense from a viewer perspective as it brings together various sports leagues under one streaming platform. Yeah, absolutely, it does. It's just, but now if you're putting all of that content onto the streaming app, you're kind of taking it away from. I listen, cable TV is going to be gone at some point. So right now, if they're putting everything there, and again, I don't know if it's going to be exclusively unless it's going to be a simulcast. But that's the thing though, is I don't understand why it can't just be a simulcast for everything. But unless somebody else knows the reason why. But yeah, I mean, listen, the streaming app I think is good because you're putting everything in one place. But at the same time, it's like you also have to force people to go away from cable and go to this if that's where everything is going to be exclusively. Because if you're not doing a simulcast, then you have to go to this app, and then you have to pay more money to get it. Now, again, myself and many others can do that, but there's some people that they might have a little bit of trouble. So, it's again, it's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening with that. But I don't know. It seems like the NFL was not happy about it. Just because, like I said, they're looking for a loophole. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it when talking about this. A lot of stuff going on. The NIL stuff we'll keep an eye on. See what the ruling ends up being, but they can maybe end up doing away with it because these universities don't see it being right because there's no clear set of rules. But and then also when I was reading, they tried to they did implement, if I could find where I put it, because I have so many notes on my phone here. But they basically tried to add more rules to make it more clearer, but it just you got schools that aren't very happy with what the NCAA is doing, but it's only going to get uglier. So we'll see what happens there. Again, new TV deals, sports streaming apps. It's there's a lot going on the off the field stuff. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it when talking about this. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on everything that was discussed. Again, I apologize. My explanation is not very clear because again, I'm trying to learn as we move along here. But yeah, so when we come back from our first break of the show, we're going to talk about Tom Brady's ending in New England, and talk about why he even if New England offered him a contract, he wasn't going to stay. So that's what we'll do when we come back from our first break of the show. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.